They're joining us. We love having people here, and it looks like there's more here today. So pumped about that. This is Riff Refine, and today is interesting because we both have demo. I know I have a demo. I hadn't checked with you, Josh, yet. You've been in London for a week. You got a demo?
I do not have a demo. Not a demo this week.
No worries.
No demo.
Then I'm gonna hold you to it next week. Actually,
next week I think I do.
We'll talk about next week. Next week it might actually be a good week for it. I'll tell you why at the end.
Okay. I'll see.
So, without further ado, let's dig in because I think somebody has quite a bit of updates. Josh, what have you been up to the last week?
Last week, wow. I have been up to this past week. I've been up to quite a bit. I just got back from London, Laravel Live UK. I literally got back less than 12 hours ago. Nicholas Krim says, "What are you eating?" And Will was eating rice right before the show started. Sorry. The absolute worst thing.
Worst choice.
Before reading.
Not going to do that again.
But this past week was kind of crazy for me. Within the Laravel world, we had to push the Laravel Nightwatch launch a little bit. So the team had some things they wanted to get ready. But basically, I went to London to show off Laravel Nightwatch. I changed a few things because it wasn't technically live, but got to hang out with some amazing people. Even Ashley Hindle was in the chat as well, which was awesome. Got to meet Ashley. Ashley's all about MCPs, and so I feel like I learned a lot there. But fantastic conference.
I want to learn about that.
Oh yeah, MCPs are like I still don't understand fully, but I get them a little bit more now.
That's perfect.
That was pretty much, I feel like that was really my past week. Was like, if you could sum it up in one or two words, it would be like Laravel Nightwatch, because I was kind of recording videos to be prepared to launch Nightwatch while I was in London. Okay. At least I got all of it out of the way, but now I'm like, I feel like, I can, next week is like, the world is open for me next week.
Because it's like all the videos you took care of last week are what is going to be the content of this week. So this week gets to just be like execute.
Yeah, I have a lot planned for next week. We can talk about that later. But that was pretty much my week. I'm glad to be home. I'm glad to be back with my family. I'm not feeling the best, but we'll get over that in a day.
It helps that what's funny is like you don't sound too much different. I can tell a little bit that you're sick. When I'm sick, it's like a world of difference because it's like I kind of have this like high, little nasally voice, but like when I'm sick, it's like, oh, now I have a deep voice. This is nice. I should get sick more often.
my voice just gets deeper. Like it's hard for me to pick it up more.
Yeah. Okay. So
what about you? What happened this week?
Oh man, full week of onboarding. Company, as we mentioned last week, company got acquired, and this week was onboarding. And it was very different. I normally work like exclusively with startups, being a designer and an engineer. It's like very much like my sweet spot of being somebody who can wear both hats at a smaller company. And so usually onboarding is just like, hey, this is our product and here's what we're trying to build next. And we just jump into the code base and get rolling. But this was like, it was very different. We met with like legal, we met with like a ton of different teams. Snowflake's a huge company. And so that was just like, it was like just a lot for a week, and I'm not used to that at all. And then because of how busy it was, like I didn't really get to do much creating, I didn't normally I'm coding or designing or doing something every week. And I did none of that this week. And that felt like extremely weird, not doing that. But other than that, we've got another episode of my wife and I's podcast called No One Asked Us.
Nice.
And that is like always fun to record.
It seems like it's been going well.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting, like the reason I mentioned that, I'm probably like we do one every week, so I'm not going to just mention that every update. But this one is interesting because like the update I want to add it was like I started like posting shorts from the podcast. Yeah. Because like me and my wife have like a very interesting like back and forth humor type thing where we kind of just like make fun of each other. And I guess if there's one thing people love is like two married people like joking on each other and like giving each other a hard time. So I like I started posting like some of the funniest ones from the show, and like my video or podcast on YouTube gets like I don't know, like 8 to 20 views each
Okay.
episode, give or take. So like nothing really, but we just enjoy doing it. But the shorts are all getting like 1,000 views,
There you go.
over like plus, and like that's just like they're gonna put shorts in front of more people. They're like that's like kind of the point. But like I did some shorts in the past, and like they never like got over like 100 or 200. So like I just kind of like changed some of the content, changed the design of the short, and like this iteration is doing a lot better. So I think it helps to have like a professional looking like scene versus like when I was first doing the shorts, it was like video clips of us in front of like a computer clearly.
Yeah.
So I think it was just like interesting seeing how that difference, that bet that we made on changing up the scenery and having more fun with it resulted in like a little more eyes on those. So
yeah,
just thought I'd share that.
Nice. I like
All
it.
right.
So you riffed on it a little bit.
Yeah, we're riffing. We're always riffing. I'm riffing in my background right now. I tried to. This is
like it.
Yeah,
it feels very like so. Chris, Sev, and Cap they have like a similar kind of like wall kind of thing. It's very Versailles of you. Very designy.
It feels like it's really close. Like I wanted to get it further back.
Oh, so it's not a green screen. That is literally
no. Like this is legit. This is one of the panels from like our other like. So the way that these. Let's see if I can like kind of tilt it over. Like it's got this like it's just like this little panel.
Okay.
You get them at Home Depot. They're like these little 5/8 inch panels.
Yeah.
And I got like 1.5 inch hard foam board and just glued the two together.
Okay.
And so like I've got 4 of these, and I just take them down, set them up because our podcast is in our dining room, so it can't stay up the whole time. I'll share a picture here in a minute with everybody so they can kind of see the hilarity of like what it looks like set up. But it's like these panels, so I was like, why not just pull one of the panels out and put it behind me and see how that works? It's not terrible. It just feels a little close. Like it feels like I'm in like a, what do they call it? Like a phone booth recorder. Okay. That's like kind of the vibe.
I think it looks pretty good though. Like it gives the feeling of like you have set this up. You do have your like green screen effect turned on though, I think.
I do, because every time I take a drink, it like does the. I need to fix. It's still left on.
You have a visible cup.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all the updates I got, and probably too many updates, as we know. Will like Yap. But I'm seeing this. All right, I'm seeing this thing called Picture in Picture is so cool.
Yeah, I
want to know about this.
I put this topic in, and for those who like, we kind of. We'll talk a little bit more in a little bit about how we kind of were prepping to set up our show and just like going from now and what would it look like. But usually it comes down to like a topic or a link. Like that's like what we're riffing on, what like gets us going, or like what inspires us in a lot of ways. And I've been interested in this stuff for a while, but I'm seeing new iterations more and more. And so I wanted to just like put in a quick little topic to say, okay, what are our thoughts on this? Because your thoughts from like a design perspective, but then there's my thoughts from like a UX / just like personal perspective as well. For those who like use, and the cool thing is like, I feel like picture in picture has become more prevalent even in like mobile world now too. Because like I forget which iOS update it was, but even like in Android, I think it was before even iOS put it in. But it's the fact that anytime you have a video playing, and I think even like Chrome does this now. Arc, I think, was one of the first ones that it got.
Arc was the one, yeah. Arc's
more popular.
What does it? Yeah. And they had, my favorite about them is like they do it with like Google Meetings too. So like if you're doing something else, it like pops out your little meeting window, which is
otherwise you can't see those people at the same thing. So I wanted mostly to like riff on like what does picture in picture look like, and what could it look like too. One, like I'm fascinated by the technology behind it, because you're basically saying I have this tab, and whether that's a video, that's what it is right now. It's a video that is currently playing, but when you go to a different tab, or if like you're on the iPhone, if you close out that app but it's still running in the background, you're still seeing that. And it's nice because you one thing, it's rough because you then lose out this real estate on your screen. But two, it's nice because you're usually, for the most part, still in wanting to engage in whatever that content is.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was thinking, I think picture in pictures is one, so cool. Two, I want to learn more about like how it's possible, like how do they do it? Because there's a lot of like cool stuff within iOS, within even like on like desktop. There's a lot of like the
Right.
boundary
And you've been doing a lot more
stuff.
native stuff, like
Yeah.
not native per se, but like more mobile type stuff. Okay. I can see why this is getting more interesting now. Good context.
Exactly. Where it's like you have this background stuff, but you still want it not in the background. So it's like background, but not background stuff. But then you also have these weird boundary types of things where like, okay, but if I want to hide it, I don't want to close it. I just want to hide it more.
Right.
In iOS, you can like flick it to the side and it just kind of has this little arrow.
And in Arc, you can like minimize it to where it keeps playing, but it like goes to like a little play bar in the sidebar, which is very interesting.
Exactly. You can like close the picture in picture, but not close the content.
Context.
Yeah. And so I was thinking through this of like, one, I just think it's so cool. And it's funny how like even in like that, all plain content in the background has always existed for like quite a while. Like it's not nothing new. But the picture in picture thing, I feel like is a relatively new idea in a lot of ways.
Or at least like it's being explored more. It's not just like, oh, this thing pops up. It's like, no, like people are thinking about like the user experience of it now.
Exactly. So what could picture in picture look like in the future? Like, is there a world where picture in picture is not just picture, where it's like, I don't know, like for example, I think of like a lot of forms that I have to fill out sometimes.
Yeah, like if a form could be picture in picture, so that like if you need to do like reference information.
Yeah, so I'm looking at
like
a PDF
medical forms and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I could still fill it out. Like right now, the current solution.
That's so interesting. Like if there's like interactive
pip.
Yeah.
Because the current solution is like, hey, I need to, like most of the time when I'm doing stuff like this, I think of like I'm a big like money finance nerd. I budget a lot.
Yes, and, I think I've read about this when Aaron and Ian were talking about how they just kind of hand wave a budget. You're like, no, man, I've got super budget.
No, I literally look at it every single morning. I check things.
Oh, wow, that's incredible.
It's
I should do
an obsession.
That. I'm not that disciplined.
It's an obsession. Derek says, we talking about Apple's app intents. I actually don't know what that is. So I'll have to look through.
But now we're looking more at it.
Yeah, now I'm writing that down right now. Apple's app intents, because that might be what I'm thinking of, because I think there's a world, and yes, Carl, budget for Taco Bell. That is literally in a budget line item. You think I'm joking? That's like eating out.
This is my monthly Taco Bell.
Extra cravings, Taco Bell kind of thing.
Oh, I love that.
But yeah, like most of the time, if I'm filling out a budget, I then use arcs like side by side, which is great. It works nice. But every now and then, the thing that I need to see for the form part, or even like the, like Amazon's credit card thing where I'm just looking at line items, I really only need to see like a small piece. I just want an iframe that hovers over it.
Right. Yeah.
But is a little bit more flexible in the sense like I want this. So I want to like control shift.
That would be nice if there was like an API for being able to do that. I think with like, so I'm looking at this app intents stuff.
Okay.
And that's like, I'm not sure about like the pop-out window specifically, but it is like specifically a framework for allowing you to like have interactions and actions that fit within your app from other apps and other contexts. So like, hey Siri, can you XYZ? Oh, and my phone just turned on. Hello. Where it's like you can have stuff that's like specific to your app.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is interesting. It's really funny because it's like there's this balance where it's like so many people are talking about how like AI is going to rule the world, so to speak. Like why do we need UIs anymore? Because like we can just tell AI to do something for us. And I think that is going to be more prevalent, especially for like simple stuff. But like there's still like a really important place for for giving like for like UI to like fit in still, like with exactly what you're talking about, where it's just like there is still like nuance in like very specific niches that like sometimes a better experience is a button, and like sometimes a better experience is just like a short form or like a couple things, so like, but giving you more control to like use that UI. Like I think we're all getting used to being able to like use AI from multiple places, so like that's like, I wonder if that getting in the mindset of doing that is like what's pushing you to be like, man, I want to be able to like interact with my site UI from other places,
But it also sounds like you're telling me like, okay, why do I want to have a picture
like,
picture
I am curious
of my app? But I think
also,
the reality is mostly just from my personal browsing. Like most of the time, like I don't think I need this too much for my sites, but maybe if like I want to give my users that flexibility of like, maybe it's, even if it's like where you're playing a game or you have like a specific like maybe a specific a blog post. Like most of the time I like to refer to things or even like continue to read something in the background.
Okay. Interesting.
Without having to constantly switch tabs and like context switch. A lot of times like I might be like, oh, let me read this blog post, while I'm answering a Slack message or something like that. Okay, maybe that's like Slack as picture in picture and it should be like a little bit more popped out and everything.
Right.
Like but I think
also, can we just take a second that you read and message at this? Are you like a genius? Like I can't do that. Like there's this that reminds me of this really good link, and we will share this in the description later, and we'll make sure that this is part of like our summary email. If you're not on the newsletter, we've already sent out one summary email. Extra links that we mentioned in the show get posted in there, as well as just like a summary if you miss it. Or can't stay for the whole show. But there's this interview with Hank. Oh man, what's his name? His name is Hank Green. Yes, that's his name. Hank Green. Yep. And yes, and
he John has a Green's brother. That's what it is.
Yes, yep. Hank Green and oh man, what's his name? I'm losing it. He's like a musician and he's like extremely talented and he has like perfect pitch and crazy hair.
Jacob Collier.
Yes. Yep. So there's this interview between them. Thank you for like helping me get that out. They have this interview, and Hank Green is like telling him like, okay, here's how the brain works. Like, try to do these two tasks together, and it's basically him saying like, can you sing while listening? Like, can you sing this song while listening to me tell you something? And then you have to repeat what I told you, because like, for a lot of people, they can't have their brain do both of those things at the same time. But there's a class of actions where like if you've done it long enough, so like if you've played a musician, you've sung a song enough times, if you are like a woodworker and like you're like doing something there while listening to something, or like whatever these actions are, if you've done something enough times, it's not considered like something like a task for your brain. It's like routine, so you can do it while actually focusing on other things, because like people can't actually multitask. What happens is one of the tasks is something that you are like, it's like muscle memory. So like you can do something that's muscle memory while something requires like active, but like people can't actually multitask and do two things that require active focus at the same time. And he kept trying to like trick Jacob, and it was hilarious because he was like, all right, now do this, this, and this. And like Jacob was able to do all of it because he's just like extremely talented and has done like a lot of rhythm and like beat stuff. So he's like, all right, now like move one hand in a square, one hand in a triangle, and sing at the same time. Like he just kept being able to do it all. It was really funny.
That's awesome. Let's link that in the description, because I want to see it too.
Yeah, it's good. There's a lot of other good stuff in there. I think I actually have it in our backlog of stuff to share for like another clip from it. But
there we go. Yeah, Derek, think about reverse typical pip, where the video is the main focal, but let's say a product or link is mentioned in the videos, so the pip is the related content to act on versus checking the description. Yes, like it would be awesome if maybe like YouTube eventually goes there in the future, but like let's say you want to have that interaction in your website too, where you're not just you're not just popping out an iframe. Like it would be neat if it was browser
Like
standard
some
in a sense.
browser level API that you could
Yep.
like plug into. That would
Yep.
be so
Because there's
dope.
so
Yeah,
much
that would be
things like
awesome.
within iframe stuff that would be weird too. And
Especially on
like
mobile.
you want to then open that up as a full link instead of just keeping it in this one iframe. I want it to be this section of a browser can then be popped into its own frame that
Mm-hmm.
exists as its own tab.
All
Just
right.
in it.
Well, I think this is interesting enough that I want to like try to riff on this, like, and
Yep.
actually put a design together. So like, I'm not gonna commit to it by like next show or anything, but like I want to like riff on some ideas that you have for like what could work, and I'll throw some designs together because I think this would be really interesting to try and visualize like what the future could be
Yeah.
if this was possible, and like interesting ways that you could like have these like picture in picture. Also,
Yeah.
I love the short term pip and calling it pip. That's awesome.
Short term pip. Yeah, it looks like there's so many like comments in the show about like
Also,
the
this cracks me up.
subconscious minds. Other
Others
people
people journal
journal.
Josh budgets.
That is true. That's my calm place kind
Oh,
of
I love
thing.
that. It's like a meditation every day.
But yeah, it's tapping into that subconscious mind. It's like you don't have to think about driving a manual car. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
In music world, I can, because I've played the key of G shapes with a capo
Mm-hmm.
so much, I don't have to think about where my hands are going. I can more
Mm-hmm.
think about what I'm
Mm-hmm.
singing or like what I'm reading in order to play. Like it's a weird process, but that would be a good full topic. I like that.
Yeah. All right. Dope. Okay, cool. So, let's see here. There is this thing that I saw. I saw this, I guess like I think I saw this last year, but for
Okay.
some reason this popped up because I think this is like a mantra in some sense of ours. So I'm going to, let's see. Let me open this up. Do, 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 do. But there's this guy, and he has one of these days I'll get better at sharing my window. All right, let's pop this up on display and add it to the stage if it loads. All right,
Let's see this.
let's see if it loads. There's this guy, and the account was called Small Worlds, and I'm just going to talk about it for a
Okay.
minute, see if this even loads. It looks like internet's being weird. So there's this account, and he wrote short stories. Specifically, he wrote like 1 to 2 sentence long stories about like sci-fi, and he wrote one every single day for an entire year. And for the first part of it, he had like no followers, no likes, nothing. And then by the end of it, he was getting like tons of likes, tons of follows. This is not loading, so we'll just move on from this. How do we remove something from the stage? There we go. All right. But this is the topic. Like the reason I want to talk about this is because like there's another link that I'll also share here in the chat for everybody. But the result of this was that by the end of the year of doing this repeatedly every day, consistently showing up and putting out literally like 2 sentences. That's it. Like it was 2 sentences. He got his whole like year of stories got acquired by a media studio in Hollywood.
Oh wow.
And like because of his consistency, because of like just choosing to like know that like this is not going to go well at first, like nobody's going to pay attention, but if I consistently stick to this because I care about this. And he didn't like, I'm not pivoting halfway through, he just chose a thing and committed to it for a year and did it every single day. And like it may have gone nowhere, but he seemed to like really enjoy it regardless. He said this has been like a game changer. Like even just like the people who would like reach out and tell him like how much they loved his stories meant a lot. But by the end, he had like the outcome. Like it got all acquired by a studio to produce it and turn it into who knows what. But like I just think about that because like I saw that or I remembered that and I thought about like this show and kind of like what we're trying to do here and like what I think a lot of people who create try to do, which is just like you create, but sometimes it feels like you're creating into the void. But I think the difference is that like the thing is like you've got to stick with it. You can't just like stop. And like you've just got to pick a path and follow it for a while. Even if it doesn't end up working, you can't judge based on like a short timeline with the content until you've gotten an audience. I'm sure like once you have an audience, you can very quickly identify if something works or not. But if you're starting from nothing, like you've got to stick with something for a while to see if something builds up over a period of time. And so like I think that's where like a lot of people get it wrong, and where I hope we don't, and where I don't plan on getting it wrong, is like sticking with it and just being consistent. Like his was like every single day, 365 days for a year, which is crazy. But like ours is like we're doing this every Friday. We'll see where this goes, but like we're only going to find out where this goes is if we stick with it for a long time. You know,
we won't find out until next year. Kind of on those same lines, like Emmett in the chat, like big win. I hit the same amount of visitors to my website as of the 11th as all of last year's visitors.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
Because you stuck with it. Like you did the little things.
Consistent publishing. It, like consistency is the king of content. Yeah. There are also like other, like obviously like you can get rocket ship growth by like caring about like the type of content, etc. But like growth will happen if you stick around longer than others. That's just like the way it works. And like the amount of growth is about like your quality, your topic, who you're trying to speak to. All that affects like how much it grows, but like you're going to grow as long as you're like consistently showing up.
Yeah. And the Small Worlds, Twitter account, like at SMLLWRLDS, like it's like the small stories are literally like, here's the first one. You buy a time machine on eBay. It arrived 6 days ago. That's literally the story. Mm-hmm. But I think like that's really cool. Like as I'm looking at it too, it's one of those things where I think too often, especially like developer centric or just creative centric people, design centric, whatever you want to put yourself in a maker type role. Most of the time we like we overcomplicate things to what we need to do. We're like, oh, I need to do this every day for a year. Okay, so if you thought, oh, I need to write a short story every day for a year, you're thinking, yeah, this means it needs to be like a 100 words plus short story.
Yeah.
But like this guy just did it literally 2 sentences, and that's a short story. And like most of the time, like I think like that's why I've slowly gotten to this point in my content creation where I'm like, I'm fine with it literally being, okay, I'm not editing this as much as I want to, or I'm not. Yeah. I stumble over my words a lot more than I want to.
Right. Well, so Derek has something that I thought was really good. He said, number one thing I've learned is that if you get a new idea, see how it can be part of what you're already building. If it doesn't fit, not now, maybe later. So like there is like not only consistency, but like focus within what you're trying to work on is big. And I think that's true too. I already have another idea, but based on like what we talked about last time of like trying to like really focus in, like I'm like putting this on back burner.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to like pursue it right now. It could potentially like play together well with this at some point. But like now it's like, nope, let's just show up. Let's get this process, this this feeling routine, this feeling good.
Consistent.
And like not right. Exactly. And like, then we can start introducing other things that feel like it builds on top of this, but like not until we've got like a firm foundation. But speaking of like building on top of this, there are some updates this week on what we call the B-roll, which is just like some behind the scenes on how we're trying to like build and run a lot like the show. Last week we talked about how it was like it's going from being a podcast to a show, because just watch last week and you'll figure out why. But this is a live show, and I'm laughing because I'm reading this first bullet point and I didn't even do this. So I'm going to read this out loud, and I will do this next time. So there's an app called Granola, and you can put it on your phone and you can just turn it on and it will listen to, which you can do it after the fact. In a second I'll mention that. But the idea is that it's like it listens to a meeting for you and processes using AI like meeting notes as well as like action items, etc. My buddy Rid, who runs the Deep Dive podcast, he was talking about how he's been using it on granola, like using granola on his podcast, but he does it when he doesn't do it while he's running the podcast. He does it like when he's like listening back through the recording. He listens to the whole recording again with granola running, and like has custom instructions set up inside of granola and like action items and stuff to say like, okay, based on like how I edit everything, like here's how I want you to like capture notes and like details about this for like how I need to like update all of this kind of stuff. But it was interesting, and it means like I was like, oh well, I want to try to run granola because I want this podcast to be like as we talked about, like as easy as possible. And I think one way, like we've got a newsletter that we're trying to run, like publish summaries every week with like links that we mentioned in the show. So I was like, oh, I bet granola would be like really good at, if I give it the instruction of like listen out for links that are mentioned and like tell me when we said, oh, we'll share this link, so that I know to go fetch those links and include them like in the description and etc. So like I think that'll be really good. But then today's been such a rush in a crazy week. I didn't even start granola, so we'll do that next time and see how that goes. Or we'll do it when we're listening back.
Yeah, and the cool thing is granola just released a granola for Windows too. So like for those who don't know, my
right.
recording streaming machine is set up on Windows, and so I used Windows a lot, or granola a lot, when I was doing everything on my Mac. But now that I switched, there's like nothing really good. Notion has its own, but that's like only for like the company plan of Notion. And that was I don't really feel like paying for I don't use too much of Notion outside of that.
Right.
But now that granola is for Windows, I've been trying it out, and it's been pretty good. I mean, literally been trying it out like today. That's the only time I've been doing it.
Cool. Well, I'm going to try it back. I'm probably going to like listen back and just like that way I can like test it out and try to fine tune some of the stuff, and then we can start implementing it more a lot in like the shows moving forward to try and maybe help fast track newsletter and like making descriptions and etc., that kind of stuff. And then the other piece of the B-roll is we are running this show using Linear. And we are using Linear.
Is it because you're a designer?
Okay, no, I do love Linear's design, but I also I think it's just like you don't have to be a designer to just appreciate how much better Linear is than like literally everything else. And I think that's like what good product and good design is about anyway. I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, but like you shouldn't have to like be somebody who cares about design.
Yeah.
Like your product should, like people should be able to use it and be like, oh wow, this is really good, regardless of whether they care about good design or not. You know, like good design is people like not really noticing how easy and how great it is to use your software. It should just be like how like people use your software and don't even think about it. Like it's just that easy to use.
Interesting. It might also be like people use your software for things that you didn't intend to. Because I'm
true. Like your software is so good, people try to like jam every use case into it. Exactly. Which is what we're doing. We are straight up like trying to like use it to its fullest. So I'm going
to. It probably would be cool to maybe not right now, but maybe like next B-roll we could now that we've gotten a couple of shows under the belt, like we could maybe show it on the screen and be like, hey,
let's do that.
Because you did a cool setup. I basically told Will when we were setting up the show, because I was like, I use like, because we were doing it in Notion for a little bit, and we both don't really use Notion, and I don't use Trello or anything like that. I use Linear mostly for if I have an idea for a video, I just put it on this whole Linear to do, and then I have this backlog of, this is like next to record, this is recording, editing, publish, all that kind of. I just use it as a Kanban for Linear.
Right.
And then I get into Will's like, hey, like let's make one for Riff Refine, and then
I went cool, maybe a little too hard.
it might be pretty hard, but it's really cool too.
Yeah, we'll give everybody a rundown next week. We'll keep things a little buttoned up at the moment, but maybe next week we'll give y'all we'll give you all a rundown of like how we've got linear set up to make it like super easy for us to set up, basically like run the entire show every single week.
Yeah. And like while we're running it too, because we have all these
literally
notes here.
We have linear up right now, and it's how we make all this happen for sure. So I saw this, and as a person who also develops,
thank you.
Like design and develops, you have write better error messages in here.
Yep.
And that is
I figured you would like this one.
I do like this one because
have you read it before? I was wondering if you had seen this before I put it.
I think I read this like 7 years ago, like whenever it first came out, like years ago. Like
2022.
It was long.
So not
2022. Maybe I read a different one. There's a different one that's probably similar. But I read this or something similar to this early on in my career, where it's like errors should be focused on like who the user is, not on like what the actual computer error is. But you go ahead and talk about this a minute, and share this with everybody, because goodness gracious, I'm terrible at this.
Yeah. So this is a link that I found, and I can't remember where it was posted, or maybe I just like scrolled on Twitter and I found it, but like someone like shared it with me. Life gives you lemons, write better error messages. And it's kind of similar to like what Derek even just commented about.
I just put that in there. Yeah. We clicked it at the same time.
You clicked on it and then I clicked on it. Because the reason why we're using linear is because it has more guardrails. It gives you like, here's the opinions on how you should use this, use it. But then it almost like gives you, it's kind of like the thing of like, if you were told to not do something, you're going to find a way to not do it.
Right.
But if you're told, hey, you can do anything you want, you're not going to be.
I don't know. I don't care. Yeah. Like, give me something. Like it's the blank canvas problem, where it's like, yes, I understand I can do anything I want, but there's too much that I can do to like really, like, I want to be spending as little time in the tool as possible. Like, I don't want to be spending time configuring my productivity or like note-taking apps. Like, I just want them to be productive, or like I write something and I move on. So like 100% agree on like linear, why I use linear a lot more for sure. Guardrails are great. More
guardrails than less.
It reminds me of the
title of this show, Aim Small, Miss Small.
Yes, aim small, miss small, 100%.
But yeah, when it comes to like error messages, I was like, the reason why I felt like this would fit really well is the whole point of, usually as a developer, and this is why I thought it'd be cool to like riff on this with you, Will, is like, usually as a developer, I'm usually thinking, okay, I want to tell a user explicitly, and like from my customer support minded background, I want to tell the user like, oh no, something happened. Like, just so you know, like something happened. And usually I go too far. I'm like, hey, this is exactly what happened. Like, we tried to do this, but you know, Cloudflare was down and AWS was down. Then like literally nothing works. So this whole link, and we can share this in the description, show notes, and everything like that, is basically what makes a bad error message versus what makes a good error message. So this whole thing, whoops, something went wrong, inappropriate tone, passing the blame, third party trying to connect to isn't responding, so we can't fetch your data. This is what everyone's error message was yesterday.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I know this terrible thing happened for like what you're trying to do for your job, but like, oopsie,
something went wrong. It's like, hey, your whole database is down. Oops, something's wrong.
Oh man,
it's funny because I chose this link before I even knew everything that happened yesterday.
Was going to break yesterday. Yeah,
that the whole internet was down. But it's just like the generic piece of, okay, hey, something happened, try it again later. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. That's usually what I would like default to. Right. But then it goes into like this whole inappropriate tone of like, imagine a doctor performing a procedure and then suddenly saying, oops, something went wrong. That made me laugh. Because usually every now and then, especially like if we're in, I don't know, like usually like my wife is very attuned to things of like saying like, oh, like if we're driving and she goes like, huh, like she gasps, I'm like, oh, literally something is about to happen.
Man. Yeah, something like, terrible is about to happen.
And it's like, oh, like, you know.
But then it's nothing. And you're like, oh my goodness, give me a heart attack while I'm trying to drive, right?
Instead, just have a copy that says, it was probably Cloudflare.
It was probably Cloudflare.
Yep. Exactly. Pass the blame. No, that is literally what this is trying not to say. But the whole point of like what makes a good error message is saying what happened, saying why it happened. We cannot connect your account due to a technical issue on our end. Provide reassurance your changes were saved, but give them a way out. If this keeps happening, contact customer care. Like these two, I mean, the whole article is great, but like these two pictures of showing a bad error message versus good error message is kind of like what got me thinking about this a lot, because I think usually anything I read now, I try to append it to what is happening like within content as well. When I'm thinking,
how are you making the connection there between error messages and content?
Usually I think of when it comes time to me trying to show people why something is cool that I found, or hey, this is why you should learn X, Y, or Z. Most of the time I'm trying to, and it's kind of like a reassurance. Usually I have found from trial and error that it's not good to do like the generic piece of like, hey, here's a cool new thing I found. You should try it too.
Okay.
No one cares.
Yeah.
Like if it's cool or new.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. I see. I'm following.
It's generic. It's unclear with my like hook for any kind of content.
Gotcha.
So I think like the win when it comes to like riffing and refining off of like what content is like this whole piece of changing from generic and unclear to literally telling people exactly why of like, hey,
why it's so exciting. Yeah.
Like I don't know if we're saying you should write better error messages, why do developers care? Well, most of you, there's probably a hard way to it, but like if I was just riffing off of this right now, and if I was trying to create a video on why developers should care about writing better error messages, it's like, hey, have you ever hit an error message in someone else's app and you didn't know what was going on and it made you frustrated? Well, now imagine every single error message in your app is just as generic, is just as useless.
Yeah.
There's a way to make it better.
That's a good point. It's like make the connection, like turn it around to like the first person, like make them connect to like some experience that they feel. Same way, it's like the same way I thought I literally ran into this week when I was like writing the newsletter stuff, and when I was posting about like, hey, I just sent out this to their newsletter, you should join, or like yesterday I was like giving an update of like the live, or maybe it was this morning where it's like, hey, like live shows later today, where it's like, man, that's like so boring. It's like the most, like I was writing out something and I was just like, I literally sound like a LinkedIn post right now. Like this is like, let me just go put on like my button up and like my boring glasses, because like this is not doing it for people. So it's just like needing to like get to the point. And I think I like worry about, I've always like had this concern of like, I don't want to be somebody who sensationalizes or like clickbaits people. So like I try to walk this like fine line of not being deceptive for eyes, like to get people's eyeballs on something. I don't want them to like, I don't want to like trick them into my content, but it's not tricking people to just like be very clear and blunt about like why something is important or interesting to you. And I'm like, that is like something I'm actively trying to work on as well, for sure.
Yeah, because I think there's like a way of doing it without sounding clickbaity. Like usually when we're thinking of like clickbaity, because usually I think error message could almost sound clickbaity in a way of like, hey, we want to try to cover our butts while also saying like, hey, something's wrong kind of thing at the same time too. And it's like a balance of saying, here's exactly what happened and being as transparent as possible, while also like assuring someone too of like, hey, in this video, in this newsletter, here's the things that you want to learn. If you're not, fine, click out. Like it doesn't matter to us. I think like that transparency piece is huge.
Yep. And Derek mentioned something where it's not sure about this, but a better error message requires programming and design to think about it. That is like 100% the case. Like the reason you get bad errors is because people just like let errors be caught in a bucket of errors. There are a lot of good links and a lot of things, talks about people who spend basically their entire career focused on like how to create systems where you can't fail, or like when you do fail, you have to explicitly handle errors. There's a framework that's been going around lately in the JavaScript space called effect.ts. which is like that's like their big thing, which is like you have to explicitly call out dependencies, you have to explicitly call out errors, and like by doing that, you have to like force yourself to explicitly handle each error, and you get better information around the errors.
Interesting.
So yes, you are 100% correct there. Like this has to be something that gets ingrained while you are creating the software. It's not something that it's not something that is easy to do once everything's built and go in and find all the broken places. It's like, nope. Like if you know something could potentially fail, then like get in there and like just handle it while you're there.
I think like along that, like it's hard to do it afterwards for things like content too. Cause if you like, I think for me, at least whenever I'm like recording a video or I'm thinking through something, the title and the like setup is almost just as important as anything in it, because then I know exactly what I want to portray across too, because I want to know, then I know what I want people to get out of it. And it's so much easier to do that when you start with it instead of like, oh, what should people learn from this whole hour that I recorded?
100%. Yep. It is easier. That's why like I hear a lot. I've never done this or dealt with this, but I hear that some people say like before you record a video, if you cannot come up with a title and like a thumbnail for it, it's not a good video. And I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but I love that mentality, which is just like, if you can't figure out how to sell something, like, cause that's like what your title and thumbnail is. It's like how you're selling the piece of content that you're making. Like if you can't sell it, then you shouldn't make it, because it must not be good enough. Like it must not be that interesting if you don't have a good hook for how to sell the reason, like why people should care.
Yep.
Okay.
100%. It's like finishing. It's like adding PhD stand after the app.
Oh man, have you ever? Okay, so especially during like whenever I work on like new projects with people, sometimes they'll be like, I'll be working with them specifically because they like want to like move into TypeScript from JavaScript, and it's like it's that exact thing where it's like, oh hey, like we've been using TypeScript with like allowing any types, and then like you turn that off and it's just like like red lines everywhere, like it's a disaster. And that's exactly it. It's much easier to start right from the jump.
You got this link in here, Will.
Okay, I do, but I don't think I have time to share that one, so I'm gonna bump it to next week.
You'll bump it to next
week because what I would like to do is I would like to do this. I would like to demo what I have coming for Laracon. So I have Laracon Talk, and this is going to be part of it. It is still a work in progress, so like no judgment, anybody. Like cut me some slack here. And this is like the wow moment, hopefully, of my talk.
Yeah.
Where my talk is about like ambitious projects, taking on things that feel ambitious. And part of it is like, for instance, look at this like crazy thing that I tried to build in Laravel. Yeah. So I'm just going to talk through it with y'all. I'm not going to dive into any code today, but I might dive into like some details later. If y'all are interested, then we can then I can like I'll share like different details periodically, because I think that'll be like a fun thing, because I will not share all of the technical details on the talk, probably just like a high level overview. But this is all HTML and CSS, every bit of it. And it's fun because like it's like you actually can turn it off and on. This little screen glare thing is a conic gradient. Those are super fun. But yeah, like every bit of this is just divs, buttons, HTML, and CSS. So we can turn it on, and you have this like little Orby thing that rotates. And I use the audio APIs in the browser to record audio. And so I'm going to start doing that. And as you're recording, it's not picking up the audio input, so this may not even work. So we will show this. I'll like share a link, like I'll like capture a video of it actually working and put in the summary email. So go to riffandrefine.fm and jump on the newsletter. But the way this works when your audio is actually capturing correctly is like all these little dots like vibrate and move
Okay.
based on the sound waves that are coming in. And when you finish recording, it saves the audio file, and it does some like calculations based on the waveforms and the frequencies to give you what are called like random seeds, which are just like integers based on the audio clip. And those integers are what is used to seed. Oh no, is it not working? This is hilarious if this just doesn't work.
Live demos.
Live demos, man. All right, we're going to go back to a map that I know works. All right. What happens, I must have put in a bug today when I was working on it. What happens is like it makes this map, and the map is like unique to the audio clip. So every map is completely different. And the map is keyed off of the audio that gets recorded. And what else like is keyed off of it? Yeah, well, there's like a multiple different things. We can talk about them. The map is based off of the entropy of the frequencies, which just means like it's based off of like what's the difference between like the maximum frequency and the minimum frequency as it like goes throughout the whole clip. And then there's also this is like a work in progress. This is not like actually a walking animation. This is like the idle animation, and it just is still doing the idle. There are enemies, so the enemies are also still a work in progress. But like if you get close enough, they start chasing you. And the next phase, I'm working on the designs currently for these guys. My little like robot-y looking dude is done. Yes, so it is audio procedural mapping. That is exactly what it is, Derek. So it's like there's a bunch of these. The number of enemies per map is also keyed off of like the audio clip. And the way that you beat the map is by going through and like killing all of the enemies before they kill you. And like when they disappear is like when you saw them like disappearing was just because like it was trying to do an attack animation, and that animation does not exist. So this is the work in progress. I've got to get that done by the end of July. So I've got time to like to put some finesse on it. But like one thing we should have it should be like people from the show who put this in, but I have to do like audio from the stage, like crowd. I want to get like the crowd in on the audio. Yeah. So before conference, we're gonna put a vote for like what I should make the audience either sing or say while I'm on stage, and I'll let y'all pick that. That sounds like a fun interactive way to do that.
Like a specific song, like a Queen song or something like that.
Oh, that would be sick. Like the boom boom ch, boom boom ch. That'd be sick. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Most people I feel like would know it well enough.
All right. You can start sending in like ideas, and if I like them, just rickroll them. Now that would be hilarious. We Will Rock You would be such a good one.
It's such a cool name though, like Derek said, audio procedural mapping.
Which is like that's exactly what it is, but like I didn't think about calling it that. But yeah, that's what I'm using in my talk now. Thanks, Derek.
Yeah, we're still stealing that.
Yep, 1,000,000,000% stealing that. All right.
Awesome. What else is up next week for you?
So to wrap things up, I think what I'm going to be doing next. Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing next week is kind of crazy. I have to fly out to San Francisco. So as mentioned, the company got acquired. Because my company got acquired, I've now got to fly to San Francisco.
Yeah.
And meet like the whole team.
Okay.
So
first offsite kind of thing.
First offsite, start planning how our product integrates with theirs, meet everybody, blah blah blah, etc. So I got to do that. I'm going to be in San Francisco, going to try to meet up with hopefully some people if I'm not too busy. But the other thing that I got to mention is that I am also like going on vacation. So like I leave Sunday and I come back Thursday, and then Friday we leave for a family vacation. So I will not be here on the show next week. So it'd be a great week for a demo, because that'd be like a good way to like use a bunch of the chunk of time. If you want to like, you could maybe like, we could find a guest. I'm sure there are plenty of plenty of awesome people we could grab to hop on the show for part of it as well, who are friends of the show. But I will not be on the show next week, unfortunately. As we mentioned, this is like, we want to keep it consistent Fridays at 1:30. So like if one of us is busy or one of us can't make it, then like the show, as they say, the show must go on. So but
the show must be riffed and refined.
The show must be riffed, and we will keep on refining. But there's
sounds like fun though.
Yes, it will be fun. I'm excited about it. I'm not excited that I'm leaving on Father's Day because I also left to go to a conference on Mother's Day.
Oh no!
So
I'm surprised Allie is not already in the chat, just
ripping me to shreds.
She's just
she's just waiting. She's waiting silently. Yeah, she's gonna wait till I walk out of the room and then she'll attack for sure.
Oh man.
But yeah, so that's what I got going on next week.
Nice. Well, I hope you have a good trip.
Yeah, same. How about you? What you got going on
next week? It's pretty light, at least in terms of like what's because a lot of like prep stuff for work stuff has kind of been out of the way in a lot of ways. Like even Taylor mentioned on Twitter, Taylor Otwell, he mentioned that Night Watch have been pushed for a week, and so the good thing is I have all like Night Watch marketing material done and ready to go. So I'll be doing a couple live streams about Night Watch next week. On Tuesday next week I'll do one. But then outside of that, I have a couple of things that I'm wanting to work on. I'm still working on my my iOS application, so that's still something that I'm kind of learning in the background. Mostly just a lot of tasks in the background in a lot of ways, specifically within iOS. Okay. But I'm also getting to play around with native PHP for iOS in a lot of ways too, just mostly to compare the two of like what's currently possible with a native PHP and how does that interact with something like Expo or something like that. And then I also, so this is what I'll have the show hold me accountable to. Maybe we can do a demo for this next week. I want to, I don't know if people have seen that Theo was doing a T3 chat hackathon. Last week I did like here's a Laravel AI chat application. It was very basic for the most part. It would still be a good submission for the chat hackathon or chatathon or whatever you want to call it. But it was written in React, Inertia, and using like OpenAI.
Yeah.
And it worked. It was great. It's super simple to do. It's mostly just like UI stuff. But I want to do like a very complex one with using Livewire. And so that's like, I want to show off what's possible.
Yeah. And I think you're the perfect person to do that because I think like there's something to be said for people who are like purely Livewire, but like you've got this like experience of like, oh, well, like I build a ton of React or like Vue, or like I'm in the JavaScript world. So like here is like if you're a JavaScript developer, what live or like a front end framework guy, here's what Livewire gives you in comparison, kind of like what we're talking about with like the being specific, like having with like the error message stuff. Like, it's not just look what I did with Livewire. It's like, hey, here are the comparisons of like why you should be interested in Livewire when you're used to doing these other things instead.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the things like where it'd be more difficult to do. And here's the things that like, oh, this makes it incredibly easy to do X, Y, or Z compared to something else. That kind of stuff is always stuff that I love riffing on in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of riffing, oh, never mind. Thanks. I did not mean to click on this one, but I will hopefully have a good trip. Appreciate that, Risen. This is the one I meant to click on. I've got another something to riff on, which is our site, because he said we need intros on the site. Whose will?
There's some riffing on that.
I've not. It's like I literally threw this together, and like the whole point was that we will be continually updating it with feedback. Thank you, Derek.
I have some
that is incredible feedback. So
yeah, that's one thing. I have something riffing to do on the site because I want to do all of you who are like in the chat or just have listened to the show. Well, first of all, thank you.
Oh yeah, second of all, I forgot about this idea. This is a good one.
I want to have a way for you to like post, hey, here's like a cool link or here's like a cool topic to think through, because a lot of times like most of this just comes from our, I don't know, our own world. And so I want to make sure we break out of that bubble as much as possible.
Totally. All right. One last thing to end the show. If people are still here, I I saw there are these three things that I thought were like really neat, and I thought they were neat in a way that would be like fun to like try something new on the show, which is I want y'all to vote on which one that I should build in code and design, and then like explain like how it's built. Like which one of these is interesting enough to you that you are like, oh man, I wonder how it's done, like how they do that. Yeah. So the first one, we'll call this one number 1. The way you'll vote is just put the number in the chat. And if nobody votes, then I'm just going to pick the one that I wanted. But if there's an overwhelming majority, then like I will go with what the people vote. That is the way the show works. So y'all get a vote on what I'm going to build and like demo to y'all of like how it works. One is this button that has like these different states and uses this really cool kind of like dot grid animation. I thought that was like extremely cool. Second one is this animation. This can actually be built in pure HTML and CSS. And whoa. This is done in like processing, but I was just looking at this and I was like, actually, this is like not that hard to do, just with like HTML and CSS, even though it looks like it's hard. So like, yeah. This one's number 2. This is like the one that got me thinking about it because I was like, oh, like this is actually not hard, but it looks complicated. So that's another one. And then the last one is this, where it's like this like cursor that has like all of these like little particle pluses that follow the mouse around. But like what's interesting is that it's got like velocity and stuff. So like as the cursor slows down, you can kind of see them group up and then they kind of spread back out, etc. So like this is number 3. So just to remind everybody, 1, 2, 3 of those, y'all put a number in the chat. Which one would you be most interested in seeing me build and then like demo how it's done?
I'm voting number 2.
Okay. I've got Derek voting number 2. Is anybody else out there who wants to vote? Because as of right now, we're doing number 2, which was the one I was going to pick anyway. So that works. Oh no, there are no more votes. We're doing number 2. All right, cool. This one's really interesting. So I'm looking forward to doing this one.
It just looks fun.
Yeah, it's so like it's just I saw this and like I just stared at it for like 5 minutes. I was just like my brain just doesn't want to like look away. Cool. All right, so that was it. I wanted to throw that one in there, and I wanted to like have people vote because I think it'd be interesting to like have more like have interactive bits. So I'll build that and then I can demo it in a future episode. Not next week because I won't be here, but at some point in the future, y'all hold me to it.
Yeah, Derek says when the man says this is actually easy, I've got to see.
I've got to see. Okay.
I've got to see too. Okay, I wouldn't even know where I'd start to do it, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. I
would ask AI to do it.
I don't have time to get into
that kind of stuff.
But this makes me that's the thing though. It's not if you know the right terminology. And do you want to know the right like how do you know the right terminology is like by honing your craft and having expertise. What we talked about last week with our like Claude computer, my Claude is my computer or whatever. Yeah. It's like yes, like there are some things that you want high level to just tell the AI to do, but there are certain things where it's like no, you've got to know your medium and know how everything works, because by knowing that, some might look at that and be like, wow, that's crazy, impossible. Like, how'd they do that? Whereas like somebody else can look at it and be like, oh, that's like XYZ. Yeah. And it's just a matter of like tuning it right.
So you've honed your craft by aiming small and missing small.
Yep. That is a very important point. You pick, especially with AI, pick small, pick a small target, give it a small area of like focus because you know what the terminology is, and say like, I'll give you a little teaser, like 3D transforms, like you take a flat thing and you can rotate it in CSS using 3D transforms. So,
but you know what to look for because you have specifically like dove into like those small niche aspects of CSS.
Exactly. 100%. That's all I got this week, man. That's all I got. How about you? You good?
That's all I got too.
Thank y'all for coming today.
Thanks everyone for watching.
I'm really enjoying this show. I'm sorry that you're feeling a little sick today. I hope you had a good time on the show regardless.
It was a blast. I'm looking forward to looking forward. Yeah, we'll see what happens next week, but I think it'll be a good show regardless. And then
I'll
we'll
try
all
to,
be glad to have you
if
back.
you need me to help source somebody or think through some stuff, we'll chat. Sorry to leave you
I love
hanging,
it.
but y'all have a good week and a good weekend. Peace.
Thanks for watching.